Hey guys, Jacob here. This is going to be a video on the Year 5 Season 3 PTS patch notes. This is going to be for TU20 Phase 2, which as you guys know starts on the 19th of January and ends on the 22nd of January, which is going to be on a Friday and a Monday. So it starts on Friday and ends on a Monday. You guys can see the time zones there as well. And this is going to be a not extremely long video. I'm going to try to make this really short and cover pretty much everything I can as quickly as possible because I know a lot of you guys only care about the interesting stuff. But to get right into it, we have the new gear. This is going to be the new Palisade Steelworks brand set. You have the 1-piece, 2-piece, and 3-piece, which is going to be 10% armor on kill. You have the 2-piece, which is going to be 60% health, and the 3-piece is 1 skill tier. Now this time around we're getting the Combustor, which is going to be perfect explosive delivery. That's the new chest piece or name chest talent we're going to be getting, which is whenever you throw a skill, 1.5 seconds after landing, it creates an explosion damaging within 5 meters. So that's the perfect. And after explosion will occur every 5 seconds. Damage skill will skill tier, dealing 25 to 100% damage of a concussion grenade. Applies remote pulse, all turrets, all hives, explosive seeker, cluster seeker, mender, decoy, and all traps. The named backpack is going to be the proxy, which is perfectly tamper-proof, which is really nice to finally see that. Enemies that walk within 3 meters of your hive, turret, remote pulse, or decoy are shocked. Arm time 2 seconds, cooldown per skill 8 seconds. The new gear set, which is the Aegis gear set, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, I'm probably butchering it. 70% health, which is going to be the 2-piece, 50% total armor, 4-piece equipped, unlock a new talent, which is Stoic. And then which is going to be 3% damage resistance to every enemy that is targeting you, which is pretty cool. I'm very excited to test this one out. The bonus is multiplied by 1 times where X is numbered agents in your group. The chest and backpack, which is Deceit. Enemies charging your decoy also counts towards as a stoic damage reduction bonus. Backpack talent, which is I think it's polyethylene. I can't even plating. I cannot pronounce that. Increased stoic damage resistance bonus from 3% to 4%. I probably butchered that really hard. I cannot speak. It is very late, as you guys know, and complicated words aren't my thing on the division. Then you have the new Rugged Gauntlets, which is going to be the exotic gloves, which are new. Talent Iron Grip, negative 50% recoil penalty when hit firing, and then negative 50% recoil penalty when blind firing from cover, which is pretty cool. And now we have the stuff a lot of you guys are curious about. New weapons and talents, the exotic weapons, the Vindicator exotic rifle, the talent Ortiz assault interface. While scope, this weapon will highlight a random body selection of each enemy. This weapon deals 75% damage to the highlighted body selections or sections, which is pretty crazy. The weapon stats and mods, you have magazine size plus 5, 10% optimal range, 15% weapon stability, and 15% weapon accuracy. We're getting a new pistol this time around, which is the exotic pistol talent Mosquito Song, which is called the Mosquito. Hitting enemy applies a stack. Stacks are shared between players at 10 stacks. The enemy will forcibly target the last player to apply a stack for 5 seconds. Stacks complete every 5 seconds. Activating the effect on enemy will remove all stacks from other enemies. And the weapon stat and mods, which is 15% reload speed and 15% weapon accuracy. Name weapon and talents. We have the behind you weapon talent, the Brutus Marksman Rifle M700 Carbon, and the Whisper M16A2, which is 40% damage to enemies that are not targeting you. Then you do 60% weapon damage to enemies who are not targeting you, and 60% as well. So you get 40 and 60 depending on what weapon you're using. So this is going to be, I'm not sure that's going to be the talent general, this one is. But as for named, you're going to have the Whisper M16A2 and the M700 Carbon. Pretty interesting weapon for that talent, the M16, which no one really uses. Now, there's going to be a lot of stuff for balancing and projects. Project Resolve, remove turrets from conflict spawn points. The Dark Zone, going rogue in a normal Dark Zone now has a 3-second activation timer. Activation time for invaded DZ remains 0.75 as before. Talents, a lot of these have been changed. Dr. Home, for example, changed proc condition to target killed from target headshot. PvP only. Fireworks show, this is for the festive delivery. Concussion grenades become festive grenades. Hitting enemy with a festive grenade will cause explosion to happen around 2 other enemies within 10 meters, dealing 15% damage. Update from 18.01. Previously, the concussion grenades from the festive grenades hitting an enemy with a festive grenade will cause the explosion to happen around other enemies within 20 meters, or 20 meters. The Unbreakable, again, which has now been reverted back to 50%. Armor repaired, PvP. System corruption, 4-piece bonus change to 2% bonus damage from 1%. That's pretty cool. Intimidate, increased stack, increased total weapon damage from 4%, damage from 5%. So that is each stack increase. Now weapons, note, which I'm very excited for some of these. The main one's going to be right here below. The list below includes the changes for Phase 1 of the TU20 PTS and updates made after the feedback review. Now, there are a lot of these. I'm not going to go through every single one, but the main one I'm excited about, which is all exotic weapons, third attribute will be reconfigurable. So that's cool. And finally, the Stoner and the Carbine 7, which will no longer drop with a preset talent. The Carbine 7 is probably one of my favorite guns to use in the game, and I never can get a good one because it always drops with that stupid talent that's always on it. And to change that, you're either changing one talent to get a different one, or you're stuck with that crappy talent on it anyway. So I'm really happy that they did actually decide to change this. It's never 1-2. It's like, oh, say it has really crappy stats and you want to change the damage charts out of cover, but say it's something else and you want to change the talent, and you're pretty much just stuck with either the crappy talent on it or stuck with the crappy stats. So I am happy that they are going to just throwing random stats or no longer drop with a preset talent. So say it has Optimus already on it, then you can get rid of one of those other stats if you don't want, say you want damage to armor on the gun instead, you now can roll that on there. So I'm very excited that they are going to be doing that. And now for assault rifles, these are all the ones that have been updated. I'm happy some of them have been getting a 10%, 8% damage increase, like the ACR and ACRE. That's my second favorite gun in the game, but I never use it because it's just not on par with a lot of the other guns. The Savage Wolverine, which a lot of you guys remember in the past, has now got a +5 magazine increase. And the G36 got a +50 RPM, which is really nice. And as for the AK, it looks like they didn't touch the AK, unfortunately. I was hoping they would maybe fix it a little bit or increase the rate of fire damage. The only one I believe that's been touched is the Black Market for weapon damage only, not RPM. So it looks like the AK is just going to be damage only this time around, not RPM. But it is what it is. I'm happy that they did at least give the damage upgrade to the AK, but sadly no RPM, which would probably be really crazy to think about, actually. For LMGs, we have weapon damage, which is pretty much all these. It's going to be a flat 10% or 20%. SMGs, 10% weapon damage. Looks like some of them got RPMs, or RPM as well. Yeah, the SMG 9 converted got 50 RPM. The Slayer got a 10% weapon damage bonus, which is pretty funny. Now for rifles, a lot of these are weapon damage, and some of them are RPM as well. If you guys want to take a look at those, I'm not going to cover every single one. I'm happy to see the UCI or the UIC got a damage increase. That is my favorite DMR. But I'm not seeing the MDR. Oh, there we go. MDR got a 10% weapon damage and a 20 RPM. That makes me very happy to see the MDR actually get a little bit of love. Same goes for marksman rifle damage. Looks like they've buffed some of those and the optimal range. And then as for brand sets, you guys can see here some of the things that are going to change and have changed. Keep this in mind. This is still in PTS. These might be reverted or they might change something else to them. You can see Alp Summit was originally 10%, which is 30, which is absolutely awesome because I've been wanting to use skill haste more on Alp Summit using the 3-piece. So now that is going to be really nice. China Light got a 20% skill haste and stats effect. SMG damage for the electric set, which is pretty cool. But the main ones that all you guys are going to be going after is like skill damage and stuff like that. Let's see, Hannah U pretty much stayed the same except the weapon damage. Murakami got a 30% increase, so instead of 20, it's now 30. Same goes for the skill damage. Richter and Kaiser got a 40% repair skills. Go down to a few more. I don't understand the whole health thing, why they're putting more health. I feel like they just did some of these just to upgrade them just to do it. I'm happy with the 20% hazard on 511. That's nice. Magazine on Brazo. So you guys can read some of these if you really, really want to. But as for Fenris, this is the big one I've been after because I know a lot of people love Fenris. They actually increased the reload speed and weapon stability, which is really nice. I'm happy they did decide to do that. And as for Seska, they gave it 90% health. It would have been better if they would have increased the crit chance by 5% or the hazard by 5, but instead just gave 90% health. I just don't understand that. Maybe it's just, this will make sense later on in the game when everything's updated. It is what it is. As for Petrov, we got a 15% weapon handling. That's really nice for LMGs. Overlord, got a 30% weapon accuracy. Unchanged, which you guys can see here. Sokolov was not touched, or Providence, which is kind of a shame because Providence is one of the main ones I use. Same for Sokolov. They did not change that. Improvements: the Tinker Station, mobile tinkering. The functionalities, or, I'm sorry, the functionalities of the Tinker Station can now be accessed on the go from inventory in two ways. That's pressing M on the highlight. The player will enter a general tinkering menu. Expertise. No changes made. Recalibration optimization. Merge both functions into one tab Tinker. It's been cool. You guys can read through some of this if you want to go super in depth with it. Optimization can no longer be done with up to a higher value than the value stored in the player's recalibration library. Player can no longer pay the full price for an incomplete optimization step. Example, the user has 10% SMG damage and the library is trying to optimize an SMG that is currently 9.7%. Since the highest value of the player library is 10, they will only be able to upgrade by 0.3 and only pay the material price for the 0.3 proportion instead of paying the full price. Okay, that's nice. So instead of paying the full price, now you can just do that. They did not change the recalibration library. Combat gear lock. This is going to be like when joining other players' sessions, the player now has 1 minute grace period before the combat gear lock applies. Gear lock no longer effect in the shooting range. That's awesome. Really happy about that. Player can now swap between concussion grenades at the current specialization grenades while in combat. Rogue players in the Dark Zone are no longer always gear locked, but the combat gear still lock up, or gear lock still applies. That means that rogue players in the Dark Zone will have to be gear locked during combat as opposed to PTS 1, where the lock was applied for the whole duration of the rogue status. More Descent stuff. Added Descent outfits in the NSA store, all 4 color variants. Add the Vindicator exotic in the NSA store. Descent talent pool rotation now has a menu where the current rotation is available. Talents can be checked. The player prompt menu can be found in Descent entrance AR window. The duration of the rotation has sorry, I can't speak. The duration of the rotation its name has now been displayed. Projects, daily projects. This reward list will now include 1 exotic component. That's cool. Weekly projects will now include 3. Known issues. Festive delivery talent description is not updated for PvP. This can be the gear balancing, which we pretty much covered this already. And overall, that's going to be about it for the patch notes for Year 5 Season 3. Sorry if I did stumble a little bit. I am recording this almost at 11 o'clock, and I forgot they were actually releasing another PTS for this that's coming up, so I haven't even really touched it at all. So probably won't this time around because, as you guys know, I don't really touch the PTS, mostly because I want to cover this stuff when it's out and it's in the game, and that way I don't cover it and then they change it in the future. But as for covering stuff on the PTS, I just cover the patch notes and show you guys exactly what they're going to be changing at the moment. Hell, some of this stuff could change again. They might revert it in another update or 2 updates from now. But I'm really happy to see some of the changes that are actually going to be happening in this game. It makes me really happy to see that they're actually adding stuff. And hopefully, since the new Avatar game is pretty much wrapped up and done, we will see more stuff on Division in the future and possibly more information on the Division 3. And they are still working on Star Wars, so that's still out there. But maybe since they're